And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And we certainly have some very exciting things to talk about today. Also, unfortunately, an item or two that isn't quite as exciting, but we'll certainly get to all of them today. And golly, look over the hedge, Molly. We have a full crew in here today. That's right. All five of the Cardinal couple participants in the website and stuff are on board today to help out with this broadcast. So, hey, we got five. We might as well play golf, and I'll be the caddy for the rest of you. How does that sound?
We're gonna be a while if you're waiting on me to finish a round.
That's okay, Jeff. Putt putt is a simple sport to pick up. You'll be fine.
I can do putt
Uh,
putt.
let's not beat around the bush, honey. Let's jump right on into it with our introductions here. We got Case in the house today. Case wrote our article today at Cardinal Couple, and certainly a fine job on Louisville's volleyball win. What is going on, Case, in your world?
Oh, not much. Just like I mentioned just before we got on, went to a work Christmas party last night for Lindsay's work. Um, had a good time. Couldn't keep up with the volleyball match at all, outside of some of the texts that I was getting from you all. But I wouldn't have been able to watch it if I was at home anyway, because I don't have ESPN Plus. But other than that, it's nice to be in December. Birthday month is here.
It is indeed the 12th month of our year, and certainly we're getting into the heyday of women's basketball now with a lot of things going on, and a very interesting NCAA volleyball tournament unfolding this as well. So this should be fun to watch. Daryl in the house with us. Daryl accompanied me to the Louisville game against Ohio State a couple of evenings ago. Had that article to kind of surmise that Cardinal effort. What else is going on, Daryl? That was you're lucky you left when you did because you did not get to see the Avalanche.
I know. You said it's a close game. You sure you don't want to stick around? And then all of a sudden it wasn't anymore. So, yeah, I'm still getting situated at my new job and just wanted to get started on that piece. So I head home right around the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter where all things went to crap. But, this team is just still learning itself and it's not last year's team, and it takes a few games to get under their feet. It was Haley Van Lith's return to the floor, so just some adjustments that need to be made. Nothing that Coach Wall says that isn't attainable, and we'll just see how they improve from that loss. I'm chilling this weekend and doing Christmas decorations and presents and whatnot. And Lulu's outside the door right now meowing because she has so much to say about the volleyball match last night.
And I think it was certainly we can refute any rumors of the fact that when the team saw you get up and leave the arena at the end of the third quarter, they fell into a deep dark depression and just decided we're not going to play anymore because Daryl left. What do we else? We come on, seriously.
Yeah, Casa was like, she's gone. No more good luck.
What you didn't see is when Liz came over and pounded the table in front of me and said, "Where is she? Bring her back. Go get
I
her."
did see where the Ohio State player ended up on the cheerleaders, and I saw you, Paul, and I was like, I was just right there.
Yes, and if it had, happened just a couple seconds earlier, I was getting ready to throw Jody Demling's laptop out in front of her, which probably could have served two excellent purposes indeed. No, anyway, not enough on that. Let's not get me into any more trouble I'm in already. That's good to hear from Jared. Jared in the house. Jared, of course, has been Mr. Photographer lately at both of these events, and certainly two marked atmospheres and attitudes. And Jared has got very good at lip reading coaches. We won't go into too much detail on that, but certainly has some interesting stories to tell about how coaches react to certain officials' calls.
Yeah, I was reconnecting my headphones there to try and get rid of a little static going on. But yeah, been busy with all sorts of sports, and with the exception of volleyball, we're finally through fall sports, which has been kind of a relief as the colder weather comes. Yeah, but as you kind of hinted at there with reading, lip reading some coaches on what they say, something that can't be repeated on air without us getting flagged. But
Good thing we're
we'll
not
just
on
say
air.
that
All I
that
gotta do
coach
is
was
all I gotta do is put the explicit tag on the episode. It's pretty
That's right.
easy. It's one button I click.
I don't mark them as made for children for YouTube. So
that coach was fortunate not to receive a technical foul during this event for what they said, but we'll leave it at that. But it's understandable that this coach has plenty of stuff.
At least you get to end the week in a bit of good news, as the Cards certainly looked quite good against Sanford there. So that was fun for you tonight. Maybe a little tougher test, as I think we'll talk about, against Purdue, perhaps. The Cards do have a win over them, but we'll see what it is. It's also very tough to beat a team a second time in a season. So we'll find out how that goes for Louisville. But also have Jeff in the house. Jeff and I were talking a little bit before the broadcast. He's certainly very excited about what volleyball has done so far. And what's going on with you, man?
not bad. Just kind of it's been a week. Mixed bag at work. Good, bad. Otherwise, it's done. So that's good. Obviously excited for volleyball getting into tournament. It's an exciting time of the year. It's a little bit bittersweet always, because it's like it's almost over though, right? So that's never a great. There's always that little bit of tang to the enjoyment of it, but enjoying it. Great event last night. We'll talk about that more. Looks like probably a pretty good match set up for tonight, and just looking at the tournament overall, we've got a few upsets going on. Not too many yet, but some going on that make it just that much more interesting to follow. I'm having fun.
As far as your actual seating for the event over in the LNFCU, we did not see you on the screen. At least I did not last night leading the Cards cheers. Or are you in a different locale than
Yes.
you normally are?
Yeah, because these aren't season tickets. These are, randomly allocated. Well, these were seemingly randomly allocated as part of the pre-sale. I'm actually on the other side of the arena from where I normally am, which kind of put a damper on things, and also I'm kind of underneath where the main cameras are, so not as visible in that respect, which I'm not gonna complain about.
Well, you're in the house for sure.
Oh yeah, I was there. I was cheering. We were doing the cheer. It got a little tough. I gotta say that the crowd felt like towards the end of that match, like it was getting a little bit bored. Which it's not completely crazy. It's a kind of understandable. It was kind of a thumping of a game. So yeah.
You kind of just felt bad.
Yeah.
I can see where 1 versus 16 seeds can cause that. Okay, sure. But, you're in the NCAA tournament. I don't think boredom should be the, primarily the main emotion going on in the arena. I mean, hey, you've got a chance to cut the field in half here. Let's get excited. But,
yeah. Technically not a 16 seed, by the way. But, yeah.
Because they only seed 1 to 8.
Yeah, because they only
each
seed
bracket.
1 to 8 in each bracket.
Okay.
And then the other half of the teams, the past have only done the first top 16 seeds overall. But then the rest of them are actually placed geographically, pretty heavily geographically. So, it's not necessarily that Sanford was the worst team in the whole region coming into this, or perceived that way. But
so it is a completely different scenario than it is for women's basketball and seeding for that tournament. Then
more like baseball and softball, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes no sense to me and appears to be very stupid. But other than that, we'll go with it. That's fine.
Well, it's trying to minimize travel for teams, is what.
Oh yes, let's worry about that.
It's an issue for some schools. So.
Yeah, it's the NCAA at their finest again. Yeah. We've got a great system in these two sports. Let's screw it up for volleyball and try this. Yes, that'll make us very popular amongst the fan base.
It's all about amount of investment, the geographic placement is intended for at least most teams to be able to just bus to locations, at least for the first 2 rounds. And then all bets are off a little bit beyond that, but to minimize the amount of flights they have to take, because that does start getting expensive for some of these programs that maybe don't have, the wealth of resources that we do. So
Well, there you have it then. Okay, we'll see what happens in it. And when they get down to the Sweet 16, perhaps the NCAA will throw something else out there, even more and more bizarre.
yeah,
If you're falling within your first name being between an A and an L, you will not play at home, regardless of where you are seated.
yeah.
You will have to go to the M versus Z school.
You know me, I'm the last person to stand up for logic with the NCAA, but I'm merely explaining here what they do, not necessarily advocating for it.
Yeah, certainly so. That is kind of a. But then again, it is the NCAA, so I suppose I should take that into my rational thought of
Yeah.
it. As for me, well, it's been a very interesting week. We finally did end up testing negative on COVID last week, and then Sonia comes home from work the other day, sneezing and hacking and coughing, and she has some type of respiratory infection. Not COVID. We did test that. She did not get it a second time, but something going on, upper respiratory or cold or something. But she's down for the count, so I'm having to be Bachelor Paul this weekend. Yay! I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Tell her we hope she feels better.
Yeah.
I certainly will. And when she wakes up and regains consciousness, I'll let her know that she'll groan probably and go roll over and go back to sleep. But anyway, so that going on. But we have a lot of good things to talk about today. We kind of have a pre-show discussion. We're going to go with the bad before we get to the good today, as far as the topics we're going to talk about. But before any of that, we're going to bring in Case to give us scheduling and Twitter. And so it is your ball now. Take it.
You got it. It is still pretty thin as we have moved into winter. We still have volleyball, which is not on all of the schedules because that would be presumptive, but it is on today's match. They're taking on Purdue at 6 p.m. That is in the L&N Federal Credit Union Arena. I don't know if you can get tickets. It probably would be unlikely.
There's a shot as like Tennessee
2 teams
and
leave,
Stanford. Yeah, they would be on the secondary market, but
Yep.
yeah.
That one is on ESPN Plus, just like last night's was. 2 all-day events going on today. Swimming is in the final day of the Toyota U.S. Open. That's in Greensboro, and track opens their indoor season with the Commonwealth College opener at the Norton Sports and Learning Complex. Men's basketball takes on Miami. They open conference play tomorrow at 1 in the Yum Center. Women's basketball takes on MTSU on the road at 5 p.m. That one is also on ESPN Plus. So get a lot out of your subscription this weekend, it appears.
Now, Case, I do have a question. Is that a 5 p.m. Central Standard Time or Eastern?
I believe it would be Eastern because it's listed on the schedule here as 5. I think that all the times listed here are Eastern.
Because
Generally, they are.
Conflicting reports on that it's a 6 o'clock game, but certainly
I'll check the ESPN app real quick, and it'll tell me.
If it's on the Go Card site, they always post stuff in the Eastern time.
Yeah, the ESPN app says 5 p.m. So
outstanding. And 5 p.m. it'll be then.
Yeah.
Monday is a day off. Tuesday, women's basketball is back in action again. They're taking on SIUE. I believe that's Southern Indiana, Evansville, right?
Yes, Southern Illinois at
Southern
University.
Illinois.
Yes, Southern Illinois University. Yes,
Edwardsville. I think.
Edwardsville. As
yeah.
yeah.
It wouldn't be Southern Indiana, Evansville because Evansville is its own school.
Right.
That was
multiple there, but I don't think they do.
I think that's ISUE.
Yeah, something like that.
Could I buy your valve and possibly trade it into two
it's
consonants?
Like AEIOU University.
Yeah.
That's at 7 p.m. That's in the Yum Center. No video listed, but presumably ACC Network Extra, since it's a home game. Wednesday is an off day. Thursday, nothing on the calendar, but that is the presumptive date we think, for Sweet 16. I think, well, all of them are 8th and 10th, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that would be a Sweet 16 matchup day for Louisville if they win tonight in volleyball. We think that might be noon based on what we've heard, but that would probably be determined after
Probably be
today's
determined tomorrow.
Yeah, after today's
Yeah.
matches are all wrapped up.
Yep.
Friday's an off day for everybody, and Saturday would be an Elite Eight match if Louisville makes it that far, and men's basketball taking on Florida State in Tallahassee at 1 p.m. So that gets us through the schedule. Like I said, kind of thin.
There's a pretty decent chance that Elite Eight match could be versus Nebraska, so that could be a really big match.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Sweet 16 would be versus Baylor. That's already determined.
Yeah, that's determined. Yeah.
As for Twitter, I tweet is at best case scenario, BST case scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared's at Mr. Anderson Jared. Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4, and you can check out the right side of the Cardinal Couple website for the Twitter widget with all of the accounts of UofL women's athletics teams.
And I guess in all fairness, we should ask Daryl if Lulu has a website yet or no. Twitter information or anything on her.
We're working on it. We're in the training phase, but I believe we're going to go the TikTok route once we get there.
Instagram or TikTok, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
TikTok
We've talked about it.
Could be a lot of fun, and I'm certain she would be a fine performer on that.
We've been working on our blocking skills, so she could be the next volleyball soccer star.
Is it blocking people on the internet or blocking people on the athletic court?
She blocks things I throw at her very, very well. You all would get a kick out of it.
All right, good deal then. We'll move on into now. I guess the meat and the bones of the show here, and started out with the events that took place at the Cards Wednesday night at the KFCM Center. Basketball wise, is either 15 or 18, depending on which poll you want. Louisville brought in either 4 or 5 Ohio State to play in the contest. It was part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. We also found out that the ACC Big Ten Challenge was in its final year. That competition will be ending after very close to 25 years, I think, here, and it will be replaced by the ACC versus SEC Challenge. When asked about that, Jeff Walls kind of said, "I really don't care," and moved on. So there you go.
You know what? I wonder if there's the potential that Louisville can play Kentucky twice in a season.
Yeah, I think he was pretty emphasis on the point that he didn't want to see that happen, and he didn't want to see the Louisville Kentucky game replace, to be considered that, and then not playing another school. He wants to keep that separate and above, and I'm pretty sure you can't feel the same way.
Yeah, I suspect if we were going to play UK for the ACC SEC Challenge, that would just be that year's matchup between the two teams. But I suspect in other years, we'll probably still play Kentucky and then play another SEC team for that challenge. So
I have to wonder if the SEC in particular would be keen, with as many members as they'll have when Texas and Oklahoma join, would be keen to move the UofL UK games for both teams. And I guess all the other ACC SEC rivalries, if they'd be keen to move those to the ACC SEC Challenge, because they'll have so many conference games they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see. It also brings out the very intriguing prospect of Louisville playing Mississippi State. Sam Purcell going up against Jeff Walls. Could we see that develop? But the Cards came out for this one, and Daryl was there with me. I'm going to kind of start with you, Daryl. You saw some very, very good basketball where the Cards were in this thing, and then kind of started to slide after the halftime. But in the third quarter, they were still in there with a fighting chance. Then all of a sudden, man, the tires went flat and the car went to the sidelines. What in the world happened here?
Yeah, this is literally the game of the tale of two halves, and Paul and I have some pretty good back and forth banter, if you ask me, just about the game, before the game, during the game, when things happen. And I think I said to you, Paul, that it feels like Louisville is still the favorite here. You know, we're ranked 18th. Ohio State is fourth in the country, yet for some reason just Louisville's history and it being a home game just made it feel like they should still be the favorite here. And you kind of laughed it off, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I did because certainly. I mean, if you were going purely on the vibe of the crowd in the arena, certainly yes. Okay, the Cards were probably the general consensus for the people think, oh, well, we'll beat Ohio State. They're nothing.
Hmm.
But this is an Ohio State team that once you started looking at them and digging a little bit into their history and their past performances this season, a very solid veteran group of ball players who don't really beat themselves, and it gave me a cause for concern. But you know, then
Yep.
again, hey, we had Haley Lith and Morgan Jones. What could go wrong, right?
Right.
Hmm.
So yeah, the first half, I mean, the Cards look like they have some control here. I mean, honestly, though, in the second quarter, they only won the quarter by a point, so it was kind of being toyed with there in the second quarter before the break. Um, so this one is just, I mean, disappointing, but somewhat, I don't want to say expected, just another learning opportunity for the team. Haley Van Lith comes back after taking a break in that Longwood match on Black Friday, and she was out there almost the whole game again, which I think was the concern for Coach Walls was just how many minutes Haley was logging and how much the team relied on her to score. So, her coming back out, she wasn't entirely efficient. I think she was 1 for 6. Um, so she was perfect at the line, but it just seems like there's a little bit of a kink in the flow of this offense. And the Buckeyes were rolling. They had 3 players more than 20 points. They just were able to come back against the Cards and actually embarrass them. And the home crowd's not used to that. They were pretty quiet in the fourth quarter, and I was actually um, like just wondering like what do we do after this game? Are we supposed to clap? The band started playing the fight song, and it was just kind of awkward. It looked like the Cards totally ran out of gas. They were just deflated in that fourth quarter, and they just couldn't do nothing could go their way. Um so now the team is 5-3, and it's December just started. We're not used to this so early in the season.
And I think whatever OSU coach Kevin McGuff said at halftime probably needs to be preserved and bottled and brought out again because they came out in the second half and went on an 11-0 run.
Yeah.
Boom, right out of the gate. So that's a
And
very, very scary proposition.
Jared let us know that their big player, I could not even pronounce her name. I'm not even going to try. Number 23 was experiencing some cramps there in the first and second quarter break. So he noticed that, and she came out with a few minutes off the clock in the second quarter. And, they just, the Cards were able to go on a run here and there, but just not enough to outlast in the entire game.
Yeah, and when you take a look at it, and I think I'll give my shot at this. I was calling her Rebecca most of the game because it was her first name, but it's
Yeah, that's smart.
Makuza Lova or
It's
Akova,
Mikusa Lasakova.
Woo!
Miku Lasakova,
Lusa
I'm pretty
Kosakova.
sure.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of
There's only
syllables.
one S. Only one
We're
S.
we're going to put Case in charge of that name for the rest of the broadcast.
Hey,
And whenever we have a question about it, we will go, Case. What's her name again?
when Eastern European names are phonetic, it's okay. When they're not phonetic, that's when things
Yeah.
get scary.
Uh, Interesting on this aspect too, and Jared, I'll go to you on this one. They played basically with 6 players this whole game against us. They had a starter that played only 5 minutes in McMahon, but they had 6 players out there for the majority of this thing, and only 6 players that were kind of interchanging with each other. And they were a very precise and a very, very disciplined team, in my opinion, who played excellent defense. And they just kind of looked at us in the second half and said, you know what? Hey, we're number 4. You're number 18. We're taking this thing over now. And it looks like I've lost Jared.
He's probably still working with his microphone.
Yeah.
He broke it.
But
Okay.
yeah, I agree with you on
I'll
that.
go to you on that then, Case. Your thoughts on that?
Well, there was what stood out to me when I was looking back at the box score, and you look beyond that they had so few players play. Taylor Thierry fouled out in only 22 minutes. So, of those 6 primary contributors, really it was 5 for a lot of the game with a player in foul trouble, and that's just not what you expect. You don't expect a just 27-point deficit in the second half or by a team that is playing so few players. Usually, you're gonna with a team like Louisville that has historically been a running team and likes to take advantage of the fact that they can get fresh legs and interchange a lot of players. You would think that they'd have a significant advantage in the latter portion of a game against a team that is playing with a really thin bench, but it just wasn't the case in this one. And for a team that wants to play with a short bench, it can really work if you've got players that can stay in the game flow. If they're conditioned well enough to keep it up, then you're not breaking up that, like I said, that flow and the consistency of the team that's on the court. But Louisville was unable to punish it. And really, they played a pretty short bench, too. Outside of Marissa Russell, none of the subs played more than 8 minutes. So, as much as Jeff Walls was throwing players in and out, it wasn't really to the benefit of keeping fresh legs.
Jeff, one of the things that was also pivotal in this game was us tying it up at 65-65 early into the fourth quarter, and then OSU going on a 14-0 run on Louisville to kind of establish their chances of winning this as very, very likely. Looking back at some of the stats, so the Cards missed 17 layups in this.
Yeah.
And that's certainly something where, okay, yes, there's obviously sometimes people guarding people on layups. That's fine, sure, too. That's going to happen. But when you're attempting a shot from 2 feet, and that's usually where most layups come from, 2 feet in, and you miss 17 of those, explain that to me, please.
God, I can't. That's we've got. And I think you look at the overall percentages. 43.5% from the field is not spectacular. It's not awful, but it's not spectacular. 28.6% from 3 is decent, but again, not spectacular. So did all right from free throw line, 86% or 85-ish percent. Not bad. I mean, that is indicative of a team that's either just not playing well, just cold shooting, which can happen, or you have the opposing team is, getting in their face, being aggressive defensively, altering shots, causing the team to try to force shots that they wouldn't normally take. And I think there was definitely some of that. Some of it was just cold shooting, but there was definitely some trying to force some things, trying to push some things where they shouldn't have. Taking a quick 3-point shot early in the shot clock instead of running some offense, things like that don't let the play develop, that it can cause problems. And it went downhill. It felt like quicksand a little bit, like it was just kind of going down, like you're getting sucked down into it. And every move you make pulls you down deeper. Just not really how quicksand works, but the metaphor does.
Something when you mentioned shooting was very, very telling as well. In that fourth quarter, the Cards shot only, I think, 25 or 28% in the fourth quarter. OSU responded with shooting 74%.
Not a winning formula, Paul.
That obviously a big factor in Louisville's demise. So, is Jared still out here, or do we have him back in the house with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, we've got you now. Congratulations.
We're going no headphones, earbuds at all right now to see if this will
Yeah.
That's loud
temporarily
and clear.
solve it.
Yeah, sounds good.
But
We're
I think
hearing you.
for the fourth quarter, there was a lot of poor shot selection. I think
Yeah.
at that point, Louisville's kind of in a panic mode, and just whatever they could, they were kind of jacking up some shots. And you add on the missed layups, as well as I mentioned in postgame, roughly 17 to 19 missed layups. That certainly doesn't help, and that's a shot that you expect to make in general. But I think it just goes back to a lot of poor shot selection, hurried shots. That's why your fourth quarter shooting percentage was way down, and it helped Ohio State be able to pull on a run. Because when you look at it in kind of the bigger picture, a missed shot that turns into a defensive rebound is not much different than a turnover, except that it may prevent a fast break.
In the scheme of things, so I'll throw this by you, and then maybe we'll kind of wrap up basketball after this. But when you're an 18 to 15 ranked team in the AP poll, and you're playing a number 4 team, and you get beat by them, should that really be much of a surprise? I think. I don't think so. I mean, we knew that Ohio State was ranked 4th or 5th for a reason. Okay, it wasn't because, oh, gee, they're in Columbus and we love everything that comes out of the Big Ten. No, they had a very good season so far and were undefeated. So I think the fan reaction and the general discussion on this thing is, how could they come into our house and beat us like that? Well, wake up, people. They're a better team than us. Okay.
Yeah.
But your all's thoughts on that? Was there really too much over expectation that we were going to handle the number 4 team in the country like we had handled some previous teams like Longwood and such like that? And Darryl, I'll let you start it out.
Oh, I think the shock is giving up almost 100 points. I mean, that you'd think it would be a lot closer. Louisville has kind of really fallen in the polls. It's not going to help the ranking committee with that kind of score difference. So, like Jared said, the fourth quarter the Cards were just desperate. I think that's when Marissa Russell chucked her 2 threes, and they were just desperation shots. So that doesn't help the stat sheet, but you would have thought this one be a little closer, and the Cards would kind of come out and show the committee that, we're still who we are, and, Ohio State just happens to be the better team right now. But I do think if the two teams met up later in the season, that it'd be a lot closer and perhaps go the Cards' way.
As they like to say, basketball, of course, is a 4-quarter game, and you've got to play all 4 quarters fairly well.
Women's basketball is anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, women's basketball for sure. Yeah,
I'm sorry, and professional.
In every
and,
level, every
just kidding.
form of basketball except for D1 men's collegiate basketball.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Ugh.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go there.
Sure.
Okay. That's fine. That's the way you guys want to be. That's,
we got to rant about the NCAA.
Live well there, and the NCAA loves it. They're beaming from year to year.
Yeah.
But Jeff, is this a great thing to worry about at this stage in the season that we lost to a top 4 team in the rankings?
I don't think you have to worry about losing to the top 4 team in the rankings. I think you have to worry about how we looked while we did it. There's still a lot to clean up on this team. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Definitely.
Are we going to be a Final Four team? We may not. This may not be our year, and I think our fan base is maybe a little bit spoiled to having one of the perennial top teams in the country for how many years have we really kind of been in that discussion, and we may not be there this year. We'll see. It's possible we could get back into that, but there's a lot of work to be done before we are.
Jared, you were there on the floor and were actually close to getting team reactions and coaching reactions and stuff like that. What were you seeing?
I think the team is still just figuring out how to play together under the Jeff Walsh system. We've talked about this before, but you've got 3 graduate transfers that have come in. You've got several freshmen that are out there playing. You've got some other players that have had to step up and play bigger roles this year with the departure and graduation of several other players. And I don't think everybody's fully figured out what their role on the team is supposed to be and how to play together and anticipate where your teammates are going to be on the court yet. And that's just something, the more they play together and the more they practice together, should work itself out. So I'm not overly panicked when you're looking at this point of the season. If we look like this come January, maybe even February, then I'm going to have some concerns. But the team was not communicating well on the court yet. There is not a general out there per se. No one's telling people where to go and who needs to be guarding who, or who needs to be in what position. And you've got the coaching staff that keeps having to step up and kind of intervene and yell at players during the middle of a play, saying, hey, you need to go there. And that's just not something I feel like we're used to seeing with the Louisville women's basketball team in recent years. So it's just early, still kind of like developmental stage with this team.
Does all that hold? Does that make any sense to you? It does to me. I certainly do believe that they do need to get a little tougher, get a little more congealed, and I mean, Case, if you're Jeff Walls, what do you say to this team before Middle Tennessee? What do you tell them?
Yeah, it's tough. I think, like Jeff mentioned, the way that the manner of loss in this one is worse than the final result. You get 2 double-digit losses already to teams that you probably shouldn't have lost to at all. But the Gonzaga game was win it overtime, and then you lose basically on you lost so big basically on free throws. It was a free throw fest at the end of the South Dakota State game. This one, you just went out and you got thumped on your home floor. And I think if you're Jeff Walls, you just say, we got to put this behind us. You can learn. You got to learn from it, but you can't dwell on it, or it's gonna carry over into multiple games. Louisville has some good opportunities against Middle Tennessee State and then SIUE to get back on their feet a little bit. I think that Longwood was deceptive in the way that you're like, oh, okay, we recovered from playing South Dakota State, but you beat up on kind of nobody.
Longwood was not a very good team. That's for
Right,
sure.
right.
Yeah.
So this way, you've got a couple of games against Middle Tennessee can be a scrappy team. So you've got a couple of games against reasonable teams before you take on Kentucky. And I think you just, like I said, you have to just put it behind you.
And put it behind is a very good apt term, because as John L. Smith used to say years ago, you need to tear off the rearview mirror and move on. That's probably why he didn't drive after a couple of months, tearing off that rearview mirror. No, I'm just kidding. It is time to tear off the rearview mirror and look forward, and hopefully they get these things straightened out. Experience is a great teacher, but I think the Cards learned a very sufficient and good enough lesson in this game, and now they need to move forward with the rest of their season. Let's hope they can do that. Let's leave basketball and head over to cross campus over to the LNFCU, where they play with a different type of ball, with a different type of net, and much better results. Let's go to volleyball. Yes, the Cards in the NCAA tournament, opening up against Samford. Jeff, you were out there for this one, a 3-set sweep for Louisville, and it had to be kind of a fun event for the fans, I think. But it was, hey, you're winning, you're advancing, you're moving on.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. Win and advance. This was a quick match. 3 sets. It was 75 minutes, barely over an hour, right? It was a very quick match. So, which is what happens when you have a pretty lopsided match like that. With all due respect to Samford, and their fans and the crowd were wonderful and supportive of their team, and credit to them for that. But this was never really in much doubt, the outcome of this one. Cards came out looking good. Faltered a little bit in the 3rd set. I think maybe got a little complacent as things were going on. It felt like the crowd did too. Like I said earlier, it felt like the crowd kind of almost got bored. So, good match. Good showing by Ika Jones. Had a great stat line. Claire Chaussee had a great stat line. Kind of spread around some others. It's good. What can you say? Is first round in the NCAA aren't typically all that competitive, and that's what this was. So,
And it was a case of rounding up the usual suspects, so to
Yeah.
speak, in this win. Iko Jones, as you mentioned, did quite well in this match as well. Uh, Claire Chaussee obviously had a very, very big night. And then Amaya Tillman and Lothario, all, we've seen great things out of them all season long. We continue to see great things out of them. So, Jared, it was pretty much going out there and kind of putting the record on and dancing, right? It wasn't that hard to do, was it?
Yeah, I think it was a nice, easy cruise to win there. Not have to exert too much energy that today would be any type of concern for fresh legs or exhaustion, which is great, seeing as Purdue was in a tight battle with Tennessee right before Louisville went on. So that obviously can work in our favor, but also if you ever have any concerns about tournament jitters, which can certainly happen, uh, being able to blow out a team in the first round just to be able to get any type of that out of the way and be able to settle in is nice and easy. I mean, it was Raquel's first time with Louisville in the tournament, and you've got Paige Morningstar first time she got to see some playing time in the tournament. So just some players that haven't been with the Cards in postseason before on the court got their chance to kind of get the feel for it early on. Easy win. So today, I'm feeling pretty good about just because of how well we looked and played yesterday, and how quick and easy we got through it.
Yeah, I hope that things will go as well against Purdue as they did, obviously, against Sanford. But Daryl, this is a team in Louisville that hadn't played for, I think, what is 8 or 9 days. There obviously you've got to worry about maybe there's a little rust there, but they certainly didn't show anything like that at all, and they looked very, very focused and looked like they were playing very, very clean. Certainly, I think that Louisville has got this thing down to where they just go in, and if they plug the right pieces into the right sequence, they're going to be very, very hard to beat.
I'm so glad you brought this up for me because you were able to catch it on the broadcast, correct?
Yes.
I wasn't sure if you also heard the commentator's comment on Louisville not playing for 9 days. Do you remember what he said?
I didn't really. I just kind of heard it and said, "Well, okay, maybe that's true, but this is Louisville."
All right. So since you guys were at the match, I'll let you know what they said. So the commentator was pitching up a storyline to his analyst there. 2 points, or not even 2 points, 1 point into the match, his comment to his partner was, "Hey, so and so, this Louisville team hasn't played for 9 days. The Sanford team went through their conference tournament. Do you think that'll have any effect on the way Louisville plays?" And keep in mind, this is 1 point into the match. He couldn't even finish his sentence before the Cards notched their second point. But his comment is that Louisville has been sitting on the couch for 9 days while Sanford was playing in a conference tournament. And I just, I was in the kitchen when it first started, and I walked in the room like, first of all, it's 2 points into the match. I don't appreciate this storyline you're running with. And why do you think they were sitting on the couch? This is a number 1 seed in this tournament that has earned their let's call it a break, and I'm sure they weren't just sitting there. I think that they have their own routines to get ready for the postseason. This is the 6th or 7th season for Coach Busman Kelly. She's finally getting into a rhythm, and she's proven that she can take this team to the postseason and deep into it. I think that it was just rude comment to say that Louisville's sitting on the couch for 9 days, because it's very obvious that they weren't. They established dominance very early in the match, and it didn't let up at all. I kind of felt sorry for Sanford, and I think I put it in the group chat. They were just slow. They just do not play the caliber of competition that Louisville does, and I mean, you just kind of felt bad for them. Louisville put it on them, and they could not get to where they needed to be fast enough. And that's my analysis of the match. It's just Louisville found the gaps really well, and Sanford was not able to recover.
So I'm curious how Steph responded to that. Steph Cantway was the color.
She didn't say anything.
She didn't,
silent because
yeah.
the Cards just notched their second point, and he goes, "Well, don't look like Lola's
Yeah.
problem. She
I
didn't even
sus-
comment.
I suspect that didn't go over real well with her, but
No.
I'd rather sit on my hands for 9 days, being 27-2 and winning my conference, than go
Exactly.
19-10 and have to win my conference tournament to make the
Yeah.
NCAA tournament.
That
but
was my
that's just
point. It was
me.
like, well, they
Like,
spent
what?
all season to get to this little, let's call it a break.
Steph does a really great job with color, but she is
Yeah,
a
she's
U of L alumna.
I would have
from-
loved to see her smirk on her face. 'cause I'm
Right.
sure she just was like, "Oh,
But
you want
what
to
are you talking about?
buddy?"
and
Well, it's
it's
easy
certainly
to
very true.
twist
Yeah,
it. You could twist that in the Cards' favor and just say it's a good time to
Yeah, be
get
rested.
some rest and get a break. I mean, we saw a couple injuries here throughout the season, and Anna DeBeer was still recovering, and Raquel Lothro kind of had a minor thing going on, and you'll see other stuff. You just get banged up throughout the season and during practice. Having a kind of a stretch like that allows the team to kind of rest up, heal up, and get past any nagging injuries, bumps, and bruises, and get going
Physically-
to the tournament.
Physically and mentally, Jared, because I think mentally the team gets to go home for Thanksgiving, be with their family, and just their morale, just get them motivated to come back and put this thing away.
Yeah, absolutely. And even during that 9-day stretch, they were practicing and doing film. But there was a day, and I don't know if you get to see some of it on social media, but the players had posted where the coaching staff surprised the team with mani-pedis. So they took a day
Nice.
off from practicing and just did a nice team bonding activity that's a lot more relaxing and fun and lifts their spirits.
Well, I think
That's
the other thing that's asinine about that statement is that literally none of the Power 6 conferences play conference tournaments.
Right.
So
Yeah.
almost
So-
like half the teams in the tournament have not played in 9 days.
Yeah.
Like,
I
okay.
think the difference is that there are some teams that play, and even in the ACC, we saw teams playing Friday and even Saturday
Instead of
after
Wednesday,
Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Yeah. We did have a longer gap than most.
And somebody remind me why we don't have a conference tournament. Somebody asked me and I could not remember.
It's probably again cost and
yeah, it would cost,
Did they
and
just
certainly
think that-
with the schedule being as large as
Yeah.
it is too, Daryl.
That's what I was thinking.
And you
15
play everybody
15 conference
twice and all. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well, you're giving all your teams 2 more matches, a guaranteed 2 more matches, as opposed to if you had an ACC tournament where some teams may be 1 and out, or if we did a condensed ACC tournament where some teams don't qualify. At least some of these teams and players have 2 more matches in them, if nothing else.
Mhm.
Yep.
certainly. I think one of the things that we can hope for is that we don't get this guy back again tonight, but we probably.
we will.
Good luck.
Yeah.
with that.
I mean, if you have some very, very good play-by-play announcers who have done
Yeah.
Google volleyball in the past. Sean Moth comes to mind immediately. He's one of the best at play-by-play that I can think of in any sport, and he did a great job with volleyball. Perhaps he was unavailable.
Which
There are
which
others you can.
which would you prefer, a good play-by-play or a good color?
Well, I want both.
Yeah, well,
No.
but that
It doesn't
doesn't
have
seem
to
to
be
be
either
your
or,
option
Jeff.
right now.
Does it seem to be either or? Does it have to be either or?
Well,
Why can't we
who-
get 2 good quality announcers in there?
Who
Yeah.
did you have
One or the
on
other,
color
Paul.
with Sean?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Do what?
Who did you have with color on with Sean? Think about that.
Well, that's the case too.
Yeah.
Or yeah, and I won't go and belittle her any more than I've already belittled her in the past years.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully she's having a lot of fun trying to find balls in the 15th woods. Yeah.
We will get
Okay.
when we get into presuming we advance, of course, the play-by-play color for third and fourth rounds and on will be more the kind of the, let's say, air quote, higher level ESPN announcers coming in. So the general,
We can certainly hope so,
Yeah.
and we hope that Katie George appears too.
Shout out Katie George. I think it's her birthday today.
is it?
And if it is, congratulations to her for making it another year.
7.
Yep,
We love
according
Doing
to
well.
Facebook, it is.
love Katie to death and hope that she gets to be in on some of these Cardinal broadcasts for volleyball down the road. But you're right. It was a pretty easy set by set win for the Cards. When you take a look at the actual breakdown on this thing, they kind of cruise their way through this thing pretty easily against a Sanford team, which 25-9, 25-13, 25-12. So really no major challenge offered by Stanford in this. But I'm looking here again. Here's another Saturday, December 3rd at 6 p.m. They're going to host Purdue.
Mhm.
Okay. Purdue, on the other hand, they had a bit of a battle here, kids. Tennessee was not willing to go home very, very early and actually had a 2-1 set lead on the Purdue Boilermakers before Purdue won a nail biting four set 25-22 and then won the fifth set 15-11 to advance. So let's talk about once again the fatigue factor here, Daryl. Let's bring this back into it, Jared. Let's bring this back into it. Purdue's got to be tired after that 5-set win, okay? The Cards, I think, were fairly rested. What kind of difference is this going to make in tonight's match?
Go ahead, Daryl.
Go ahead, Jared.
Oh, I've
Were
thrown
you
one
there?
out there that neither one wants. Okay.
Were you there, Jared, for this one, or were you still coming from work?
Yeah, I got there to watch the fifth set. I watched the first 3.5 at home, and when I could tell that the fourth set could go either way, I started making my way down to LNN Federal Credit Union Arena, and Purdue seemed well in control in the fifth set. However, any other set in that match, it seemed like Tennessee had more momentum. There's just a few points go this way or that way for you in a set, and it can really make a big difference. But I think the fact that you have to draw that match out for so long, 2.5 hours, 5 full sets, and for Purdue, when they won their second and third sets, they were both close. It's like 25-22, 25-23 realm. So it's not like they were cruise control for those. So I think there was a lot more, I guess, nerves that you've got to put in, running on adrenaline. Those extra sets is a lot more on your legs when you're constantly having to move around, jump up and down. So I think they are going to show just a little bit of fatigue because you don't often see where volleyball will play back-to-back days other than some of those early season, what you could call like round-robin events. Typically, you'll see where there's a rest day in between. So I think Purdue playing that 5-setter while UofL played, I guess you could argue and say UofL played 3 sets, even though it didn't even feel like that much.
No, it
works well in UofL's favor for this one.
Yeah, and go ahead.
And I think if it is a 4 or 5-setter match today, I think you're going to see more and more fatigue show on Purdue's side the longer we go, if we go that long.
Yeah, and my comment is just looking at the stats sheet afterwards. They have freshman Eva Hudson who led the team. She had 23 kills and 14 digs. I mean, if she's just a freshman, she's probably not as conditioned as a Claire Chauté, and she's 6'1", and she probably is not as experienced as the rest of the Cards might be in the postseason. So, I mean, that's a stat that jumps out to me, and just her class also makes me think that she will probably not be as efficient for just being out there as long as they did. 5 sets is exhausting, and to do it or to have to come back out the next day and face the number 1 seed and their home court just seems like a recipe for just success for the Cards.
It was earlier in the year that the Cards did defeat Purdue in 3 sets.
Oh, yeah.
Back in early September. So I guess it brings up the question of familiarity versus revenge. Which factor will be predominant in tonight's match? Certainly the Cards know how to beat this team. They did it pretty handily earlier in the year. But did Purdue kind of take that to heart and say, hey, not again. We've learned from our loss. Look at Louisville. Interesting dilemma here, Jeff. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so familiarity cuts both ways, right? I mean, and it's not just this season that we played them once this season. We've played Purdue a lot over the years.
Yeah.
So at least once for the past 4 years. This will be the second meeting this year. But, familiar with the team, familiar with the coaching styles. I've always said you never want to take a team coached by someone with the last name Shondell for granted. And Dave Shondell has had a long-term good program at Purdue. They're not always in the absolute top echelons, but they're always good, and you have to be aware of them. I think Purdue started out this season a bit overrated. They started out around 9th ranked, I think, and now they're down to.
That's what they were when we played them.
Yeah. Now they're down to around 19th, 18th, 19th, something like that. So I mean, they really had.
They were
maybe lower.
One of the 8 seeds. So
yeah. I don't know what they are at the coaches' poll. Yeah, but they're definitely have dropped a lot over the season. They were perennial residents of the Volley Talk upsets thread because they kept getting upset all season. So yeah, they really dropped. I think kind of the shine has come off of them. I wonder if maybe they had a little bit of that Big Ten aura reflected on them, and people are kind of realizing, maybe not. They're maybe not as good as we thought they might be. So,
Purdue 27th in RPI for the record.
no, yeah, okay. I think Louisville comes out and plays the game. If they come out and play the game that we know they can play, I say this a lot, but if they come out and play the game they know that they can play, they're going to beat this team. I don't think there's much question that if they come out strong and play a strong game, we're going to beat that team. The worry is, taking it for granted. I know the team generally and the staff, I think, also would have preferred to play Tennessee because of the lack of familiarity there, but and Tennessee probably was just not the better team. But I don't think there will be a huge challenge in this, but just can't let complacency set in, like I think it kind of was towards the end of the match last night a little bit.
I know there had to be a significant amount of disappointment too by you, Jeff, in knowing that Tennessee would not be around, so their marvelous pep band could keep you entertained all night long.
I've always said, hell must be perpetually Tennessee versus Michigan game. So you hear Rocky Top and Hail to the Victors constantly.
Yes, indeed. It's not too hard to join the Tennessee band. You only need to learn one song. Yeah,
they did play some other songs, and they sounded pretty good. I got you got to give them credit. But yeah, there was a lot of Rocky Top. So
not being a big fan of that particular tune, I can agree with you fully on that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and perhaps Purdue will bring in a pep band. Did they have one there last night?
They did not.
Okay. Other fish to fry then, I guess, in Purdue's case. Yep. Perhaps they will hire a local high school band to come in and represent them, right?
Well, their band is probably in Indianapolis, right? Purdue's in the Big Ten championship game.
Oh, and if that'd be the case, then more power to them. Hail to the Boilermakers. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. So, taking a look at this, the Cards obviously would head down to the KFC Yum Center if they win tonight. The difference in the venues, Jeff, let me start with you real quick on this. Playing from obviously a smaller arena to the big cavern that is the KFC Yum Center. How's that going to affect us?
Man, it's going to be a really, really different environment. Obviously, the worry going into something like the KFC Yum Center is that the crowd is going to, you worry that the crowd will feel lost, right? I mean, we played down there for 5 or 6 years, regular seasons, and that's what happened. We would draw 1,500, 2,000 people, and it would feel like the place was empty. That's a big part of why we moved back to what's now the L&N Federal Credit Union Arena in order to make it a little closer, a little louder, a little more enthusiastic. I don't think that's gonna be the worry. You look at this bracket and who's coming this way. We got Baylor coming this way. We got Nebraska's decided coming this way. And we're going to have either Arkansas or Oregon. Oregon travels fairly well if they are the favored team in that. Arkansas is close enough. They may travel fairly well. I don't know. We may sell this place out.
But I think the problem there is that you may sell it out with opponents.
Right.
Like
exactly.
If we're talking about a potential midweek game on Thursday against Baylor, everybody that travels is off work, and everybody that's local is not, unless they take off work, and they're less inclined to do so.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. And that's going to be a little tough, but there's still the energy in there, even if it's not directed towards you. There's still some, and I think that will help. But at least it's not going to feel empty, and I think that's a big part of it. Louisville has played down there once.
Louisville turned out 8,000 this season, right?
When they turned out 9,000 for Notre Dame match.
Jared's been down there. Jared was at that event. I got to ask Jared this question: where would you rather shoot an event, Jared?
Oh,
FCU or Yum Center?
Oh, absolutely. At the light, well, from a photographer standpoint, the lighting is a lot better. There's more room to move around for angles and shots down at the Yum Center. I thought the energies, we all just kind of mentioned the 9,000 plus against Notre Dame, and you have to think was a Wednesday. It was a weeknight against the Notre Dame team who was below 500, so there wasn't much incentive to go for a match like that, but the crowd still turned out anyways. You're looking at tournament time where a 1 seed, there's a lot on the line once you get there, especially if you can get to Saturday, the chance for another Final Four appearance. I think UofL fans are going to turn out. They're frustrated with men's basketball. They've been frustrated with football. There's a few fans that are frustrated with women's
I
basketball.
was going to say,
but
they
I'm
might
still
get
not
frustrated with
worried.
women's basketball.
Yeah, dude.
So, I mean, they're looking for a Louisville team that's has a high rate of success and can feel optimistic about. Well, right now, I think you need to look right towards the volleyball team for that. So fans are really going to want to show up and turn out for this one. And I wouldn't be surprised if UofL tries to run some type of deal for students. I know NCAA has most control, but UofL may be able to pull some strings to work like a student discount. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything in terms of just general fans, but I don't believe tickets are going to be all that expensive for
It's
upper
also
levels.
during finals. This is a struggle. This
Yeah.
is a bad time.
There's
Let me
there's
throw
also
this out here.
let me jump in on that real quick, Paul. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but there's also pent up demand for volleyball, right? Let's keep this in mind. There was a 350 person waiting list for season tickets before the season started, right? There's a pent up demand. There have been people that have been wanting to get in to see Louisville volleyball play all season long and may not have been able to do it yet, right? So this is finally the opportunity when there should be plenty of tickets available for people to get in there. I've heard from many people who have been trying to get in, can't see it, can't wait for next weekend because they're finally going to be able to get in and watch them play. So,
And then I'll kind of close out the discussion on volleyball on this. And Daryl, where would you rather watch an event? KFC Center or on campus at the LFNC if it's a volleyball event? Which one do you want to go to?
I know that match against Notre Dame this season just proved that the demand is there. Because they were I think Katie George did that game, and they were showing her her highlights from when she was playing down there, and it was empty. It was absolutely empty. You could hear a pin drop in that place. But I mean, if the match would have been more competitive, that place would have been rocking. And I'm not saying it wasn't, but it was just so impressive to see more than 9,000 people for a regular season volleyball match. And it just shows that this brand and this sport is growing. And if I had to pick, I'm going Yum Center because I think that they can get 3,000 a night, and then for those big matches, they can get 10 in there. So I'm all about getting as many people as possible and letting these players feel the energy and feel the support while they're literally giving everything they can for the program and the university.
That's so very big as well. And you know, all ended up by saying, if we could have the ideal situation to play in arena wise, I go back to earlier this year when we were up to Kentucky at Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah,
Even though it was primarily a UK crowd up there, that place was bonkers.
Yeah.
If you could get
It's a
maybe
great
4,000 or
size.
5,000 people into an arena with that type of Cardinal energy, that could be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
The question here, and I don't have the answer to it, is where in this town do you find that kind of arena to play in? Well,
You
you
build it.
don't right now.
Well,
You gotta build it.
You have to build it.
Yeah.
Louisville owns some land.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
It's a
I've
big
The
said
land
for-
is there, but it's expensive to build,
Big,
I've
a big
said
enough
for
lot that would
years.
fit a 5,000 to 10,000 person arena for
Yeah.
a dual sport situation.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, that's the
parking
other thing
cars,
is
yeah.
just having it on campus was a huge thing for them moving it back to LNN and just that campus atmosphere. So that's another big thing that you got to consider.
Let's hope that these changes can come up down the road. Currently, we have a very nice parking lot over there where they're putting rental cars from all other different places next to the soccer stadium. Not saying that would be an ideal place to put a
It's a perfect
volleyball
place.
arena,
It
but
is.
certainly I hope that our new president might take these things into concern and possibly even call Jared to ask his opinion on it. He got
My opinion would be to have a generous donation from Cardinal Couple to name it the Cardinal Couple Arena.
I think we can
And
scrounge
certainly-
together $7.
yes, and certainly we can just tap into Jeff's fast resources to get that naming right.
We'll get the Cardinal Couple honorary seat. It'll be
Yeah.
located in the nosebleed section in the worst view in the house.
Certainly so. We will be able to hand pick our own announcers for those who are watching at home. That's right. All rights and reservations to Cardinal Couple. Right. Let's hope that happens, but I don't see it. All right. It's been a great discussion today. Let's go ahead and roll into some final thoughts here. Let's go ahead and start with you, Case. Final thoughts.
I don't have to worry about much more World Cup because the U.S. men's team was thoroughly embarrassed by Netherlands today.
Yeah.
So hopefully in 2026 they can make a move toward getting out of or getting to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002.
They got out of great play.
Yeah, you take what you can get. But
Yeah.
on the women's side, I think that looking forward to seeing what this volleyball team can do, and we'll just keep holding on to hope that eventually they'll build that stadium. I mean, they're or arena. They're currently putting lipstick on a pig, in my opinion, with LNN. It was designed to be a practice court, um, and that's how it still feels in its bones. So we'll hope for a better place to play for multiple sports.
Indeed, we will. Daryl, final thoughts.
Just piggyback off Case. Let everyone know that I am boycotting the World Cup because it should have been a United States World Cup, and FIFA is a corrupt organization. And yeah, so there's my thought on that. And then also, just another social issue is that we still need to bring Brittany Griner home. I'm not a huge Brittany Griner fan, but I'm really worried she's going to be forgotten, and that is just a scary, scary thought. And again, I've said it before. If she was a Tom Brady, this would not be happening. So just bring Brittany home.
I have to agree 100% there. Let's bring Brittany home for sure. Jared, final thoughts?
Yeah, without wanting to look too far ahead and look past Purdue tonight, I think Baylor would be actually a fairly tough matchup for us on Thursday, uh, and could potentially be a trap game as Louisville would eagerly look forward to Nebraska on Saturday. So just kind of one of those. Make sure to take each game at a time when you get to tournament play, because there's no, oops, we messed up. We'll turn around and get them next game, because it's do or die time.
Yes, indeed. And let's certainly hope that we get to talk about that next week. Things that happen in the KFCM Center involving the Cardinals, both volleyball efforts. And Jeff, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I thought the Sanford volleyball crowd was they're great fans. I wanted to shout out one specific moment. It was late in the third set. Sanford had already used both of its timeouts, and it was like 3 points from the match being over, and there was no doubt about the outcome. The Sanford coach called a challenge, and pretty clearly weren't going to win the challenge, but wanted to take a moment. And the Sanford fan base, who I was sitting right next to just by chance, during the challenge, it was a long challenge, a longer challenge I thought it really deserved. But during the challenge, the Sanford fan base all ended up getting up and just cheering really loudly, like, supporting their team and cheering them on, despite clearly that this was going to be the end of their run for the season. So just a great moment. I thought it was a great show of support from a great fan base. So just shout them out on that.
Absolutely so. Even if you're getting beat, if your fan base is showing you love, it's got to make a program feel
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah. I suspect there were some players on the court that maybe had some tears in their eyes. Yeah.
Oh, certainly so. As far as me, I'm going to with all the excitement that is going on with these two sports, I'm going to take you all away for that for my final thoughts. I'm going to go to field hockey, and Katie Snyder, as graduate Katie Snyder, was named the recipient of the 2022 Go Teach Dr. Pepper Tuition Giveaway Award, announced by the ACC a couple of days ago. Snyder, one of 15 ACC student athletes to get this award in connection with Subway football championships and the College Football Playoff Foundations. She'll get $2,500 on behalf of the CFP and Dr. Pepper to assist in her continued pursuit of her degree or career. So Congratulations to Katie. She gave us such great moments on the field of hockey venues, and was certainly a key player for the Cards. And now gets this very nice stipend to continue her education. So, Katie, we loved you when you were out there. We're going to continue to love you when you're doing your academic thing. So, you keep going, Miss Snyder. I'm proud of you. But that'll do it for us. Well, thank everybody for listening to the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour broadcast. And the podcast itself will be back next week and let you know something we don't. Until then, go Cards and let's win them all.